You just have to say, I want to talk to you about Elon Musk, and boom, people love talking.
Walter Isaacson has written biographies of Ben Franklin, Albert Einstein, and Steve Jobs. And this coming week, our sister company, Simon & Schuster, will publish his biography of Elon Musk.
There's nobody in the world who knows more about Steve Jobs outside his immediate family than Walter Isaacson, the author of the massive hit new book, Steve Jobs. Well, Walter, welcome to TechCrunch TV.
Thank you. I think you probably overstate that. I'm sure there are many people who knew Steve quite well.
There are, for example?
Well, he had.
But I appreciate your finishing that on time to come up here. So we want to talk about Einstein a bit, but before we get into that, I'd like to ask about how you actually came to specialize in people that some people would say are geniuses. So let's go through the list of some of them that you've written about. The first one I think you wrote about was Henry Kissinger, and some people would say he's a genius. Henry would say that.
He would say that.
He would say that, right? So what led you to write a book about him, and is it easier to write a book about a genius? It turned in a manuscript about somebody who's well known. It's publicly known that you're writing a book about a very smart person. What's his name? I can't remember.
Elon Musk. It's a memorable name, and he's a memorable person.
So we'll talk about him in a moment.
Too memorable by half sometimes.
So we'll get into that in a moment, but I appreciate your finishing that on time to come up here. So
continue our conversation now with Walter Isaacson, Tulane University Professor of History, Perella Weinberg Advisory Partner, Aspen Institute Distinguished Fellow, and of course his Elon Musk biography is set to be released in September. Walter, it's so good to have you on this topic. Welcome.
It's an honor to be back with you, Scott.
What do you make of this mania?
You know, in 1999, when I was editor of Time, we were about to make Jeff Bezos the Person of the Year. And you could feel the air starting to come out of what you just called the dot-com bubble. And I asked one of the people who I worked with, and they said, don't worry about it. You know, Jeff Bezos is not in the dot-com business. He's in the customer service business. And even though Amazon went down in 2000, and I thought we were going to look silly for having made him Person of the Year,
overwhelming focus is solving full self-driving. So, yeah, and that's essential. And like that's really the difference between Tesla being worth a lot of money and being worth basically zero. 10,000 a week between SX and 3. Feel very confident about that, and we feel very confident about being feature complete with self-driving. Next year we'll expand the product line with Model Y and Semi. And we expect to have the first operating robotaxis next year with no one in them next year. It's always difficult to, like, when things are on an exponential, at an exponential rate of improvement, it's very difficult to kind of wrap one's mind around it because we're used to extrapolating on a linear basis. But when you've got massive amounts of like, as the hardware, massive amounts of hardware on the road, the cumulative data is increasing exponentially. The software is getting better at an exponential rate. I feel very confident predicting autonomous robotaxis for Tesla next year. Not in all jurisdictions because we won't have regulatory approval everywhere, but I'm confident we'll have at least regulatory approval somewhere literally next year. So any customer will be able to add or remove their car to the Tesla network. So we expect this to operate it's sort of like a combination of maybe the Uber and Airbnb model. So if you own the car, you can add or subtract it to the Tesla network. And Tesla would take 25 or 30% of the revenue. And then in places where there aren't enough people sharing their cars, we would just have dedicated Tesla vehicles. So when you use the car, we'll show you our ride-sharing app. So you'll be able to summon the car from the parking lot, get in, and go for a drive. really simple. So you just take the same Tesla app that you currently have, we'll just update the app and add a summon Tesla or commit your car to the fleet. So it's either summon your car or summon a Tesla or add or subtract your car to the fleet. You'll be able to do that from your phone. So we see potential for smoothing out the demand distribution curve and having the car operate at a much higher utility than
Amazon transformed the way we live. That's going to be true of AI, not just AI in terms of generative text like chatbots, but AI in terms of what we saw Apple just do, which is real-world AI, where cars are driving themselves, headsets are telling actually, and it's the broader issue we talked about, whether it's a Fitch downgrade or the things John was saying about both sides, is that we become so polarized in the media. And if you look at the Fitch downgrade, the interesting thing is not, to me, GDP to debt ratio. It's they say we have a dysfunction in our politics. That's the underlying problem. Well, that dysfunction starts even with cable news, social media, whether it's, from what used to be Twitter to the 3 cable news networks. It tends to fracture us and make us have different sets of facts, not just opinions. Different sets of facts, not just opinions.
Remember this video from 2016. Tesla released it to promote the self-driving technology it was developing. Well, now it appears that the video was a sham. The video begins with the tagline, "The person in the driver's seat is only there for legal reasons. He is not doing anything. The car is driving itself." But according to a Tesla engineer's testimony, the car used 3D mapping on a predetermined route from a Californian house to Tesla's then headquarters in Palo Alto. The engineer revealed that during filming, the drivers had to intervene in test runs, and when trying to show that the Model X could park by itself, the car actually crashed into a fence. When Tesla released the video, Musk tweeted, "Tesla drives itself with no human input at all through urban streets to highway to streets, then finds a parking spot." Well, 7 years later, and it seems like we're no closer to fully autonomous driving.